Can you imagine a future Hall of Fame Major League Baseball player personally advertising his $1.9 million house on Craigslist? Well, you don't have to imagine anymore. You're going to get to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
This is the Virtual Real Estate Investor Podcast with Vincent Polisi. Buckle your seatbelt and prepare to learn how to legally make six figures investing in real estate with no money, no credit check, and nothing but a computer and internet connection. Learn how you too can begin generating buyers and sellers for free today, and why you're only 2 calls away from making a $10,000 or more payday while never leaving the comfort of your home. And now, your host, the virtual real estate investor, Vincent Polisi.
All right, guys, here we go. If you've been following along and you listened to episode 003, you got to hear how we generated a $1.8 million lead for free utilizing the 10-minute task and Craigslist for free. Absolutely free. You got to hear it yourself from the joint venture partner that originated this deal. What you didn't get to hear, unfortunately, is the 7-step sales process that he began to take the prospect through. He got through the steps up until the point in time that he trial closed, and here come the objections. And as we talked about before, objections are good. Objections are not rejections. So you're going to get to hear firsthand how these objections get handled to the point that we can get to a close. You're going to get to hear firsthand from the Major League Baseball player himself, who we did not know until this phone call was actually a Major League Baseball player. You'll get to hear exactly how the call plays out. You're going to get to hear every objection that he came up with. You're going to get to hear him utilize what's called the appealing to the higher authority clause. And basically what he ends up doing is, as previously mentioned in the prior episode, deferring the decision-making process to his financial advisor. A gatekeeper, in other words, which is what most professional athletes have and use. In this case, when someone uses the appealing to the higher authority clause, in other words, I can't make the decision, my sales manager has to make the decision, my wife has to make the decision, my financial advisor has to make the decision, I need to speak to my attorney, etc. When somebody uses that clause, you never know when they use it, whether or not they're simply wasting your time and trying to get rid of you and deferring the decision-making process because they don't have the courage to tell you firsthand, listen, I'm not interested. And so it's imperative when someone pulls the appealing to the higher authority clause on you that you immediately come back with the proper way to handle that objection. What is the proper way to handle that objection? The proper way to handle the appealing to the higher authority clause is to simply call the bluff right then and trial close again. And the way that you do that is by requesting a conference call or meeting with that person immediately. That way you have the ability to present the information in a logical, structured manner that's going to make sense, and you have the ability to answer any and all questions as it relates to whatever product or service you're selling, whatever type of deal structure you're trying to do, as opposed to what generally happens if you don't close and handle that objection right then, which is simply this. The prospect goes and tries to relay and communicate the information that they are not an expert on, that they don't have all the answers to the decision maker, the higher authority. And when they do that, invariably what will happen is they mess something up. They don't have their facts straight. They don't have all of the correct answers. And so the easiest decision and the easiest guidance for someone, whether it's an attorney, a wife, whatever, to give somebody is to simply tell them no, because there's no risk, exposure, liability in saying no. That doesn't help you. So anytime anybody uses the appealing to the higher authority clause, what you want to do immediately is close again and say, fantastic, why don't we get them on the phone right now? That way I can answer any questions that they may have and we can get this thing moving forward. If you do that, you will know right then and there whether your chain is being pulled and they're wasting your time. If you don't do that, you're never going to know, because what generally will happen is you'll never hear from them again. So anytime the appealing to the higher authority clause gets used on you, as a professional salesperson, you've got to come back with the correct objection handling technique and request a conference call or a meeting with that person right then, immediately. Why you got them on the phone? Don't waste time. Go for it immediately. Time kills the deal. You don't have time to waste, and the last thing that you want is somebody who's not qualified to present your information, your deal structure, the protections you have in place, the benefits that you have, the income streams that you have for that person to someone else. Don't do it. Close. Now, before we get into this call, it's imperative to make sure that you understand that there is a lot of different terminology that's being kicked around in this phone call as it relates to deal structures. There are a lot of terms that are going to be used that probably won't make sense if you don't understand exactly what the process is that we were using, the contract structure that we were using. And so before we get into the actual call itself, we're going to explain the vocabulary so that you can follow along and everything will make sense.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Don't nobody understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, man.
To be successful in real estate investing, you gotta understand the language. Sit back as Vincent takes you through common real estate investing and business lingo in this episode of Vincent's Vernacular.
So let me give you some quick background information on some of the terminology utilized in this phone call, as well as what the end game was, so that it will make sense. First and foremost, the end game was a contract for deed on the property where we purchase the property, have equitable interest in the property, and total control of the property so that we can then sell the property to a third party or assign the contract that we have. You're going to hear multiple contract structures kicked around because the initial contract that was submitted was for an option agreement to test the waters to determine whether or not we were going to be able to obtain equitable interest and whether or not the seller was realistic as far as his price and also as far as his payment is concerned. You're going to hear the prospect, the seller, repeatedly reference lease option, which is not what we were doing. I don't know why he kept referencing a lease option. I have to correct him several times that we're not trying to do a lease option, but I think probably because he had the property listed for rent as well as for sale, he was thinking lease option because most people don't understand owner finance deals or contracts for deed, land contracts, land trusts, etc. Now, you're going to hear a term in here that I coined back in 2008 when I was training Joe McCall on how to do lease options. It is a term for an entity that does not exist. It's totally inaccurate, but as you'll hear, it ends up helping clarify who the parties are for a layman. And that term is tenant buyer. But let's clarify this because there is no such thing. There is no legal entity known as a tenant buyer. You are either a tenant or a buyer, but you are not a tenant buyer. I used that term because the average person doesn't have an understanding of who an optionee and an optionor are. When you're doing lease options, which again is not what we're doing, but when you're doing lease options, there are two separate agreements that get executed. One is a lease, and the parties on that are a tenant and landlord, and one is an option, and the parties on that are optionor and optionee. There is no buyer on a lease option agreement or a tenant buyer, and if you do anything to reference such an entity, you have unknowingly conveyed equitable interest and created what's called a de facto or a disguised sale in the eyes of the IRS and in the eyes of the Dodd-Frank regulators. So don't do that. When you're doing real estate investment deals, and especially creative deal structuring on owner finance subject to land trust and the variations of owner finance, it's crucial to understand what the law is. You can get extremely creative and you can do a lot of things that a lot of people will tell you is against the law, even though it isn't. When you're discussing the law, everything is going to come down to intent and transparency. Now, some people intentionally structure contracts that they know are illegal. In fact, if you listen to the Hot Seat webinar that I did with attorney Angelo Russo, you'll get to hear out of his own mouth him say that he intentionally puts clauses in contracts, in lease option agreements that he knows will not hold up in court and that are a violation of state law. And the reasoning for why he does this is simply this. It is because he doesn't think that a tenant is going to have the legal knowledge to understand that it's against the law, and if they do, they won't have the financial resources to pursue it in court. I don't like this, personally. My suggestion is to be as creative as possible and totally transparent as far as what your intent is.
You think I'm talking about breaking the law?
No, I'm just trying to figure out how far you want it bent.
As far as you can without breaking it.
And now, without further delay, it's unquestionably everyone's favorite segment of the Virtual Real Estate Investor Podcast with Vincent Polisi. It's time for an extra-large dose of total transparency. As you listen to Vincent live and in the trenches dodging bullets and grenades. while he's closing real buyers and sellers over the phone.
Hang on. This is Vincent.
Yes, Vincent?
Yes.
Vincent, how are you? This is
Juan, how are you? Hold on one second. Actually, I got RJ on the other line. I'm going to conference him in real quick. Okay, RJ, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, sir.
All right. Juan, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. He mentioned that you had some questions that I guess he wasn't comfortable answering or didn't have all the information, so I wanted to see how I could help you.
No, he sent me a contract, and the reason that I called him, when I reviewed the contract, I found that I would like to, because I have my, the realtor that is doing that for me, the contracts and that. So for me to be able to, to rent a place, I want to be able to, to know who's going to be living in the house and do all the checks, the history and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was talking to Robert.
Okay. What is it that you're concerned about as far as the history and all the checks?
No, I want to know who's going to be in the house,
Oh, yeah. No, I don't have an issue with that at all. I don't have an issue with that at all.
Just to make sure that they're the right people and everything's going to be okay. So that's
right.
And that's all. That's all that I was asking. So that's why I asked Robert if you guys have the people that is going to rent the house. We can start from there.
Okay. So what, maybe I'm confused here. So your concern is just making sure that they meet certain qualifications. Let me back up here for a second to hopefully help explain some of this stuff. I spent 12 years in mortgage banking and owned a mortgage company. So when we have a client that comes in, I'm running them through conventional, mortgage underwriting, running debt-to-income ratios, ensuring that they have an ability to qualify for a mortgage during the contract term. And it's not a rental that we're doing. I don't rent properties. I don't deal with career renters because that's what you're afraid of and concerned about getting in to a $1.9 million house. People that come in and stop paying and tear the house apart and leave in the middle of the night. The way the contracts are structured, it's structured as a purchase from day one through a contract for deed or land contract where they're actually contracted to purchase the property. There's no deed transference or anything like that. But what it does is it ensures that we're dealing with people that are serious that want to purchase a property because if they pull any of the typical shenanigans, we go after them for breach of contract and specific performance in addition to the standard dispossessory actions. And, at that point, if that were to be the case, then we get judgments and garnish wages and do all the normal stuff that you would have to do. Now, thankfully, I haven't had to do any of that in 7 years because of the way that with the process that we run them through because the deals are designed to get closed out as quickly as possible. I think probably the issue that we are going to have as far as the house is concerned is probably just a term in the sense that I don't know, I haven't pulled the comps yet, but my guess is that the sales, locally to where you're at probably haven't caught back up yet after the collapse because most of the people are buying short sales and foreclosures, and the banks are now calculating those in appraised value, even though it's not a retail transaction or arm's length transaction. So I don't know. Have you had offers on the house and stuff? It looks like you lowered the price or something. I'm assuming that had something to do with the appraisal.
Yeah, we had one offer, but it was really low.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's probably a guy like me coming in to try to get a deal. They should think you're. Are you living in the house now, or is it vacant?
Yes.
So you are living there? Okay.
Yeah, I live in it.
And what is your plan then? If so, we get somebody that's going to come in and take over the payments and all that.
Well, no, I'm to be honest, I didn't consider this option until Robert called me, and
Sure.
I was talking to the my realtor about it, and they've been done this type of deal before with some other people,
Mm-hmm.
and Robert was telling me that he had some people interested in renting the house, and I told him let me check it out and see if we consider to do that, and we're probably open to do that when you guys got the people to do it.
Okay, yeah, but I can't send anybody out there unless we have an agreement, because what I'm not going to do is have somebody go out to the property on a deal that we can't guarantee they get. That's why we contract on them up front and make sure we have all of the potential misunderstandings straightened out. That's why I'm trying to understand beyond the traditional what a lender wants as far as, debt to income ratio, ability to qualify for financing during the contract term, verification of employment and income, all the standard qualification stuff. What is it that you're looking for or are concerned about with relation to somebody coming into the house? And I'll put all that in the contract with you first up front. I mean, I don't have any problem. The thing that you have, let me just be honest with you, the contract, the non-exclusive option agreement you have is an extremely dumbed down, virtually one-page agreement that's sole purpose is to do two things. One is to clarify payment and price, because if there's ever going to be an issue, it's going to be about the money, and I want to get that straightened out up front so there are no back-end issues with you and I. And number two, it's to ensure that we have some type of an agreement with you so we're not illegally brokering without a license, okay, because I'm not a realtor, all right? So I have to have some type of an agreement with you to even be involved in the transaction, because it's not my house and I'm not licensed to be a realtor. I don't have to be as an investor as long as we've got the right documentation in place. But instead of using, a 5-page standard option agreement, we've got it extremely dumbed down, because I'm not going to sue you. I mean, if you walk away from the deal, you walk away from the deal. It's not a big deal. We'll just go get another house. That's not a concern that I've got. So what I'm trying to ascertain here is, what is it that we need to do to ensure to your satisfaction that whoever's coming into the property meets whatever standard that you have? Because what I don't do and have never done, we've done stuff for former NFL guys, we've got stuff with movie directors and all kinds of crazy stuff over the years, because the high end for high income, high net worth people on properties like this has been tanked from a lending perspective, even more so than the lower end, because now, banks on a house like this, they're going to want 30 or 40% cash down. Okay. So, when you've got, it's not that sometimes people don't have the money, but a lot of times they don't have that type of cash to bury in a house. But even if they did, who would want to? Especially based on what happened here 5 or 6 years ago, and everything was just evaporated. So, at any rate, what is it? I mean, obviously, you want to make sure that they have the ability to make the payments on time, that they've got a vested interest, that they can qualify within 24 months, 36 months, something like that, and guaranteed jobs and everything else beyond the normal standard qualifications. What is it that you are concerned about or looking for? Because let me explain to you what I don't do, and I don't want to. And I'm not trying to be nasty or whatever, but what I can't do is this. I can't get into a scenario where we send somebody out to the house and it's the typical idiotic realtor ping pong match of we have to go through offer, counteroffer, and or approval, non-approval type thing. That's a total waste of everybody's time. What I'd rather do right now is you tell me, hey, the guy has to meet X, Y, and Z, and if he doesn't, we're not doing the deal. That I can deal with, and that way I can make sure that we're not dealing with anybody that doesn't match exactly what you're looking for. Okay, I understand with a $1.8 million house, you have legitimate concerns about somebody getting into the home, being there 3 months and tearing the house apart and leaving in the middle of the night. I got that, believe me. And I indemnify against those types of things in the event something like that were to happen. And thankfully, it doesn't happen. I mean, we haven't had any situation like that. And I think the last time it happened was in 2007. We had a guy go off the deep end in Atlanta, and he lost his job and ended up drinking, radiator fluid, and just went totally nuts. But I mean, it's like one out of thousands of transactions that we actually had to go to court. I haven't been to court on one of these since 2007, and I don't want to. That's why we put all the parameters in place to make sure that we're not getting into those situations. I mean, because you have to understand that somebody that's going to come in, I mean, and your payment, to me, I think the payment's a little low for 1.8 or 1.9. What is $7,000? Is that all you owe on a monthly basis? Does that cover the nut?
Yes, that's covered.
How much did you get? You must have a ton of equity in this thing. Either that or some ridiculous ton of equity, or ridiculous financing, one or the other.
Yeah, no, I have probably like $800,000 in equity on this.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm not. I put it in the market just to see how the market is, and
okay.
And I told my realtors, hey, let's try. And the reason that I put it there because we want to move to Scottsdale because my kids' school.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm in Troon North, so I'm over there right now. Yep.
Okay, so that's the main reason, and I told my wife, I said, if the house sells, at the right price, we sell it and move to closer to their school. So if it doesn't, so we stay here and we have to commute a little longer. But that's my point of selling the house. I wasn't thinking of like lease option to buy.
That's okay. It would actually be, it's called a land contract. What I'm going to do if we were going to let anybody inside a house like this is they have to be tattooed on the deal. It has to be a purchase where they're actually going, there is no out. Okay. I don't like lease options. We have that in the contract that you've got strictly because that's the contract I initially go to with the tenant buyer at that point to clarify all the terms and everything like that so we don't have to waste your time. But the contract between you and the tenant or you and the buyer actually becomes an actual contract for deed where they don't have any ability to get out. I mean, they're buying the house, they're agreeing to pay a price, and if they bail, you've got breach of contract and specific performance in addition to, a number of other things that you can actually pursue to ensure that you get paid, which that's the reason that we have them set up that way because, and I'm sure your realtor probably told you this too, a lease option or lease purchase, 98% of those never close. I mean, it's a total waste of time. That's why we don't do them. But at any rate, so in this scenario right here, let me explain to you how this works or how it could work for you. Do you have another home already picked? Do you already have another home picked out in Scottsdale?
No, not yet. We went and looked for some houses right about 3 weeks ago. Used to see the different places that we kind of like the areas,
Okay, and what? Are you going to buy something? Are you going to rent something? Are you going to do a deal like this on something? What was your thought there?
Well, if we sell the house or if we rent it.
Yeah, okay. It's not. We're not renting it, but for all intents and purposes, if you rent it, what happens then?
Well, if we rent, I'm probably gonna rent another place for this period of time.
Okay. All right.
I don't want to get into another big loan if I don't sell this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it even if I did sell it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's too easy to negotiate and arrange owner finance transactions where you don't have to go in and bury that type of cash into another property. I mean, obviously, and I'm in complete agreement with you, if you can get out of that thing and get your $800,000, that's exactly what I would do. And if you do that, call me and let me know, and I'll show you how to get into another house that's comparable without putting $800,000 in cash down. Okay, because I wouldn't do it. And I'll give you an example. I did a deal for myself personally on a property in Florida a number of years ago. It was a $2.5 million builder's model, brand new construction house, never been lived in, and I negotiated that deal with the owner she put down $500,000 into the house, and I got that property it was $1 for the option and $12,000 a month for the payment, and because that's what her debt service coverage was on it with the taxes and everything else. So I just basically came in and took all the payments and all it over. And had I gone to a bank to try to obtain financing, I would have had to come up somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. There's no way I'm going to do that. I mean, all that does is protect the bank. That doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. So I don't like having money at risk like that, as I'm sure a lot of people here in Arizona have experienced over the last few years. All right, so here's what we can do, okay? And let me just throw this at you because when we have we've got a buyer that your house may work for, and if it works for them, they come in, they're going to be basically taking over everything, all the payments, taxes, insurance, HOA dues, anything else you've got associated with the house, plus any increases thereon. So Maricopa, I guess you're in Maricopa County, if they come out and they increase your property taxes next year, which they're probably going to do because, houses are appreciating now, or they have been year over year anyway, last year since they burned through all the short sales and foreclosures, or most of them, you don't eat that. That is absorbed by the buyer in the same way it would be if you owned a house and had a loan with Bank of America. So you have a static $7,000 a month, if that's the number, coming in on a monthly basis. So you'll know exactly where you're going to be. What we can do to help you is if we do that, we can do what I call a flip-flop deal, where we flip somebody into your house, he comes in, takes over everything, and then we flop you out into another property that doesn't require you to come up with $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $800,000 in cash. I don't know what you're looking at, or price-wise, or payment-wise, but I mean, that's up to you. If you want to go get a loan, by all means, go do that. But that's just an option of something that we can do that wouldn't require that, and it wouldn't require you to have access to the $800,000, because there's plenty of other houses that are out there, especially in Scottsdale, that you could get into without having. I don't know. Maybe you like to put a lot of money down. I don't. To me, it's a waste of money.
I don't either. I prefer to put it somewhere else and work it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get a negative rate of return. So
so Vincent, you tell me you can have another house for us, is what you're saying, right? And swap it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I do this. I do this all over the United States. we call it the Custom Home Finder program, where if somebody needs a property and we don't have one in inventory, like this deal, okay, we get somebody and we don't have a property in inventory that works for them, then we go out and locate houses that look like they're viable, negotiate contracts with the owners just like you, and then help them get into the house without having to come up with all that cash, and then work towards getting them qualified. Because a lot of people that are going to be able to afford a property like this are either going to be, most of them are going to be self-employed, where they're deducting everything they legally can to avoid tax liability.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I'm saying. So a lot of times their income on paper, as far as what the banks are looking at, in many cases will not qualify them for this type of a note. But they can make the payments, they're making the money. It's just they're taking the legal tax deductions to avoid, giving the money to the IRS. So there's, I don't know what you're looking for or where, or if you're familiar enough with Scottsdale to make that determination, but that's certainly something that we could help you with as well, because obviously you're going to need a place to go to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, you must have a ton of furniture in that house.
I'm sorry?
I said you must have a ton of furniture in that house to move.
Kind of a little. A little. But, yeah, it's a big house, a nice place. But, yeah, Vincent, why, I mean, I'm in California right now, so I'm getting back to Arizona in a couple of days. What are you available next week?
Yeah.
Maybe we can meet and go, and see different scenarios of what we probably can do.
Sure.
Yeah. And where's you said you're located in True North, right?
Yeah, I'm in True North right now, over by the Four Seasons.
Okay. And this is the best number to reach you?
It is.
Okay. So how you want to do this? You want me to call you, or where's the best
Well,
time?
I mean, can I be honest with you? Here's the bottom line. At this point, what I'd like to do is just move forward on your house, and so we can at least get some traction and forward momentum. If there's some other language you want me to add to that agreement that you've got, I'll be happy to do that. And then as it relates, because, you're not there, so we can't show the house right now anyway, but at least I can get them the information, and then I've got a database of about 5,000 people. I can blast it out and see who else we have that may be interested. And then when you get back, I assume what you're talking about wanting to meet about is potentially getting a property for yourself where you don't have to put that kind of cash down. Maybe I'm mistaken. And if that's the case, then, we can do that. But I'd like to get some forward momentum, today if possible. You can agree to that thing, on your iPad or iPhone or whatever you have. And at least we can move forward there. And then you and I, at your leisure, then can, work to put together whatever scenario you're looking for in another house.
So the contract you send me is for you to be able to work in my house, to find somebody for the house.
Correct. Well, we've got somebody already lined up that it may work for, but in the event that it doesn't, I've got other people and I have ways to generate buyers, because right now you don't have it marketed or advertised for this type of a transaction. And I guarantee you there are people that are out there that are making money that can make the payments and take care of the house and eventually get qualified that don't qualify right now, or that don't have the total that a lender is going to require today, but given 12, 18, 24 months, they can come up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem you're fighting is two things. You're fighting valuation, and you're fighting the fact that the lenders want 30 or 40% protection on the house.
Mm-hmm.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only. You think I'm with you? I am not with you.
And now, it's time for Coffees for Closers Only. Listen as Vincent walks you step by step through sales closing techniques, objection handling, pre-qualification questions, the 4 buying personality types, NLP, and everything related to professionally closing sales.
So I stopped the call right there because I want to go ahead and make a real quick point before we continue on with the call, because you're about to hear a close. And that close, actually, you're going to hear 2 closes. You're going to get to hear the seller, the prospect, close me on what's called the appealing to the higher authority close. And this is where he defers the decision-making power to his financial advisor. Then you'll get to hear exactly how to handle that objection or that close as I ask him to get the financial advisor on a conference call immediately. Stay tuned to find out what he does. Is he trying to pull the getaway, or is he legitimate and actually wants to consult with his financial advisor?
Well, I haven't. Probably gonna have to talk to my financial advisor and just ask him a couple of questions about this situation, and I probably can give you a call and we'll move from there.
Yeah, let's do a conference call with him. Let's get him on the phone. I was a certified wealth preservation planner, so I promise you I can handle anything he's got that he can throw out at us.
Yeah, I understand. But that's something that I always do when I'm gonna do things. But we can put it on the phone if you're okay with it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let me get the phone number out of my cell phone. Can you hold 1 second, please?
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks. So, Vince, you have a way to do a three-way call? Because, to be honest, I don't know how to do it from my phone.
What do you do for a living?
Huh?
What do you do for a living?
I used to play baseball, so I know how to hit a ball and catch baseball. So.
It's all right. I got this covered. This is an amateur hour. What's the number?
It's and her name is Patricia.
Patricia. Okay.
Yes.
You have reached. Oh, I am sorry, but I'm unavailable at the moment. If you leave me your name and number, I will call you as soon as possible.
Let me call the
At the
office.
tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1.
All right, you want to call her office?
Yeah, see where she's at, and maybe. And can we call you this number? The 40.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, give me a few minutes, and we call you back.
All right, 10-4. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up, investors? John Lee Dumas here, founder and host of Entrepreneur on Fire, awarded Best of iTunes 2013, and you're listening to the Virtual Real Estate Investor Podcast with my man, Vincent Polisi. Prepare to ignite. So, as you can see, he actually wasn't trying to pull the getaway, but the average individual is not going to know how to handle that close, the appealing to the higher authority close, or that objection when they're on the phone. And that can be an absolute deal killer, because I will tell you from experience what would have happened had I allowed him to get away and not taken control. What would have happened is he would have gone back to the financial advisor, explained things that he really didn't understand thoroughly himself in a way that didn't make sense to the financial advisor. And of course, the financial advisor is looking out for his best interest, is going to tell him not to do it. And the entire deal would have been dead right there. And this, my friends, is exactly why I teach sales and sales closing first. It is the most important component that you can learn
in business, and you just heard it play out as to why. Now, be sure and stay tuned and check out the next episode, because in the next episode, you're going to get to hear exactly how the call with the financial advisor went. You'll also get to hear me close again. What am I closing on this time? In addition to closing on why it's a good deal, you're going to get to hear me close a 6-figure payout.
You've been listening to the Virtual Real Estate Investor Podcast with Vincent Polisi. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to connect with Vincent at virtualrealestateinvestor.org, Facebook at facebook.com/virtual real estate investor, or at Vincent's private Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/virtual real estate investor.